My name's Alex Stephany and I'm CEO of JustPark. JustPark is a website and mobile app that drivers can use to book cheap, convenient parking. I've always loved marketplace businesses and high growth businesses as well. And when I joined JustPark, it was called Park at My House, and it fitted firmly into those two categories. It had just raised investment as well from BMW, so it was a really exciting time for the business, just a very small business, but one with clearly huge potential. So JustPark was founded by Anthony Eskenazi. He was actually in San Francisco and trying to park at a baseball game, and he saw an empty driveway, and he realized actually it would be an amazing win-win situation if I was able to park in this driveway, get to the ball game without being late, and the property owner can make some money. He got home from San Francisco to London where he lived, and he looked online and he realized this service just didn't exist. So he quit his job at Deloitte, which is an accountancy firm, and built the first version of Park at My House, which today is known as JustPark. I think the biggest challenge with building a marketplace like JustPark is changing behaviour. So the majority of the business is still peer-to-peer parking. So instead of parking on a parking meter or in a car park, you're actually parking at someone's home. And although people have done that in a sort of limited way over the years, it's still a very unusual form of behaviour. And I think people still need to get used to doing that. What helps is that it's a much better way of doing something. So it's more secure because your car is parked outside a home rather than on the street. It's a lot cheaper, and it's also really convenient because you have this guaranteed space waiting for you. I think the biggest difference between JustPark and our competitors is just scale. So we're the only company in history that's really scaled peer-to-peer parking at all. We've now got 20,000 people renting out their driveways and parking spaces on the platform, predominantly in the UK. I don't think our competitors have even reached sort of about 10% of that size. I think the biggest one probably has a few hundred, potentially 1,000 private driveways listed. So I think scale is the biggest one, and I think that's just mostly been a question of execution on the idea. So we apply a service fee just like Airbnb. I think the biggest problem is probably around trust. So what we need to do is persuade people that actually not only can they park at someone else's house, but it's actually a really, really good way of parking, and it's so much better to reserve a cheap parking space at a person's home than to get to your destination, realise you don't have one, circle round and round, and then park on the street at great expense and obviously at risk of getting a parking ticket. So we work with large parking companies and hotels as well who put their parking spaces on the platform, and the way they profit is very simple really. They're just driving a lot of extra revenue from spaces that would otherwise sit empty. I think my advice to anyone working in city government is to lead rather than follow. It's a general trend throughout the collaborative economy that people at the top are resistant to change when these forms of behaviour are very uncertain. But I think when you've seen that in other markets people are doing these things very successfully with no detrimental impacts on society at all, then you should actually be trying to be proactive, embracing these things rather than reactively responding to them. I'm actually writing a book on the collaborative economy right now, so I've been making a journey of my own around the UK, but also continental Europe and the US. So for me, it's incredibly exciting social and economic journey really that the entire world is on. I'm really privileged to be having a sort of insider's view of this working in JustPark, but I'm also really keen to see what JustPark can learn from other businesses in the space. I think people need to really give up the hunger or the clinginess they have to consistent consumer experiences. So right now people think of a product or service as being a certain thing, and they have a very rigidly defined view of that. Actually, I think what will really help this thing scale is when that I guess nexus of belief sort of erodes and people go, actually I can stay in a hotel, but it's not actually going to look like a hotel. It's not going to have a coffee machine or a mini bar. I can park in a parking space, but it might not have a big parking sign outside it. So I think slowly over time, people will get an appreciation of the fact that they can get the value of these goods and services without all the kind of context that they're used to. The ultimate goal at JustPark is to solve the problem of parking. So in a world that is really, really rapidly urbanising, our thesis is that parking is probably a top 10 urban problem, and that actually there's a very elegant solution that we have at JustPark, which is simply to use the space that already exists and to make it accessible via mobile technology.